Okay, lovely people, it's Lee here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a recessed photo window inside an album. This happens to be a wedding photo album that I made for my brother and his beautiful wife Karen. Now I'm showing you one I've made here, and I'm just making sure the measurements are right. So the square I'm going to be making is a 10 by 10 square with a photograph inside it. So I'm just checking the measurements. You'll see I've made a line down the left hand side of the A4 piece of chipboard. This is a 1mm piece of chipboard. You're going to need 2 pieces of that. I've made a 1cm line down the side because that's where the binding rings are going to go. So I'm finding the middle of the A4 piece of chipboard, not including that wee 1cm gap. So I'm slowly cutting out the square here, as you can see. One, because I need a new blade in my knife, typical, but also I don't want to go through this too quickly because I didn't want it to slip or cut through the chipboard wrong. So I'm just carefully cutting it out here. So that's my wee recess window. I'm just taking off any marks or anything. So this is Skivertex I'm using. It's a bookbinding cloth. It's fantastic stuff. Great to use. I love using it. I'll give you the link for it. And I'm also using bookbinding glue. It's just a PVA based glue. And I'm using also a old piece of chipboard. And the reason why I used a piece of chipboard to put the glue on was because I wanted to save as much of the PVA as I could, and I find that foam brushes and paint brushes actually absorb a lot of the PVA, and for the small amount of glue that I actually got in this tub, I found it a bit expensive, £3 a bit expensive for the small amount, and that was a new tub, and you can see it's only halfway full there. So I have glued the 1mm piece of chipboard down, and I'm just brayering it. Now my brayer is useless, it falls apart all the time, as you'll probably see here. So I just turn it over to make sure it's all flat. Look, see, broken. Oh, does my nut in. So I've slowed this bit down. What I am doing here is I'm cutting this Skivertex to make the gap in the front. Now I'm doing this very slowly, and as you can see, I'm not taking it to the very corner. I'm taking it as close to the corner as I can, but I'm not cutting into the actual corner of the square. And the reason being is, if you do that, when you fold back your pieces, you're going to see the chipboard. So try to leave the tiniest wee bit in the corner. So just take it slowly, take your time. I did it freehand, but you can draw lines if you want to get it perfectly right. So I'm just folding back the Skivertex here. It sort of has like a leather feel to it. It's got a texture to it as well. It's lovely stuff. And I'm just cutting off any bulk here because I don't want any bulk in the book. The less bulk the better. So just cut those wee bits down, and then I do use my paintbrush just to glue these wee bits down. Use your bone folder just to make sure all the corners are creased, and you'll see just probably the wee corner bit there where there's a bit left. So just glue all these bits down. Use your bone folder to make sure it's pressed down well. Just take it easy this bit, don't use too much glue. Be careful with your bone folder because you don't want to tear the Skivertex. And you see that I'm using a bit of kitchen roll. I always have like an old damp cloth or a piece of kitchen roll just to mop up any bits of glue, because you don't want that getting onto the cover anywhere. So I'm just checking the photograph here, making sure that it's where I want it, and I'm just going to glue it. Now at this stage, if you want to add any ribbon or anything onto the front, do it now, because I forgot that I wanted to put ribbon onto the front of it, and you want it to sort of go behind and tuck down into the recess there. So if you want ribbon, do it now and put it onto the front. I just think it's neater if you have it tucked down behind the recess of the window. It looks much neater. You can of course just cut the ribbon and leave it on the raw edge, but I find that it unravels. So if you want ribbon, stick it on now. I made the mistake of not doing it and had to do it all over again. So that's the window. So now I'm going to add another piece of 1mm chipboard to the back of it, and that'll be your cover. I prefer to use 2mm chipboard. It's a much sturdier board, so that's why I'm using 2 pieces of the 1mm. You can of course do this with the 2mm, but I just prefer to use 2 pieces of the 1mm, because then if you use 2 pieces of the 2mm, it ends up very bulky and thick. Now you've seen me do this before in my other bookbinding tutorials. It's not difficult. If you want to refer back to my other bookbinding tutorials, you see how I made the corners and everything. So I'm just going to whiz through this bit. So there I'm just taking off the corners. And I've made sure I've glued the two pieces together, the chipboard well together. So I'll show you a link in the description bar below of how to miter the corners and glue your covers on and everything. It's very simple, very easy. That's why I'm whizzing through this part. But if you want to see how to add covers to your books, I'll give a link down below. So I'm just making sure all the wee corners are tucked in. It's just like wrapping a present, really. I ended up actually using a black and white photograph, so you'll see photographs of the finished album at the end. The colour picture was beautiful, but I actually thought the black and white looked much better just with the white Skivertex cover, and it has a lovely texture to it too. So here I'm just cutting a piece of black chipboard, or sorry, a piece of black cardstock for the inside of the book. So this will just be glued to the inside of your book cover. And at this stage I just left it blank, but if you want you can put like a wee envelope there to keep wee photographs or memorabilia or whatever you want. So you don't need to see me adding the glue, it's simple enough. So I'm just gluing the cardstock down to the inside of the cover. And just press it down well, and you can use a brayer at this stage as well. I also lifted the edges up a wee bit because it just wasn't, the glue had started to dry, so you can just peel up any corners and use your paintbrush just to ensure that it's well glued down. And here I'm just using a bit of kitchen roll just to ensure any wee glue bits that are left behind are taken off the book. And using my brayer just to make sure it's all down. And that is pretty much it. That's how you do the recessed window for a photo album. Very simple, very easy, and extremely quick to do. So I'll show you photographs at the end of what it actually looked like whenever I finally decided what I was happy with. And here it is. Actually, I've taken out their surname just for privacy. But this is how it looked. So if you have any questions, any queries, give me a shout, and Happy New Year to everybody. Thanks, bye.